enact a blessing which Shemona Esrei for this terrible scourge. The blessing was called B'lam Hashem Al Yisikva. This is a very unusual bracha. Chazal called the wrath of Hashem down on those who slander their brothers, begging Hashem to punish them speedily and to destroy them completely. May Hashem approve. Please mute yourselves. Please mute yourselves. The bracha says, may Hashem uproot, break, destroy, and humble those who do wrong with evil intent speedily in our days. What a bracha. It's unlike any other bracha we have. This bracha is clearly referring to the enemies inside the Jewish people. It's not the enemies outside the Jewish people. There are plenty of those. But this bracha was for the enemies inside. Comes along the Anshe Knesset HaGadolah and institutes the Shemona Esrei when the Jewish people returned to Eretz Yisrael from Bavel, because as the Rambam writes, the people couldn't speak the language anymore. And Chazal, the rabbis, had to give them a formula to use for prayer. Now, the original Shemona Esrei had 18 brachas. That's why it's called Shemona Esrei. And when we have 19 brachas, why? Because in the days of Rabbi Gamliel, things were so bad. And there were people trying to turn the nation away from Hashem, and the Rambam writes, and Gamliel saw this problem was greater than all of the other problems, and we're suffering from enemies inside and outside, and Rabbi Gamliel and the Bezdin add another bracha to Shemona Esrei. And we ask Hashem to destroy the heretics and the slanderers, and this bracha is established in the Tefillah, and from then on, we're all familiar with this bracha. But there's an obvious question. If now the Shemona Esrei has 19 brachas, we should change it from Shemona Esrei to Chai. We should call it Chai. We should say, did you daven Chai yet? Who's the chazan for Chai, right? We call it Shemona. Why? So we could suggest perhaps the reason why we didn't change Shemona Esrei, didn't become Chai, is because maybe Rabbi Gamliel was not proud of the fact that he had to add another bracha to Shemona Esrei. A bracha's entire purpose was to ask Hashem to get rid of the people who are messing us up from inside. Maybe there's a hope that someday we'll be able to remove this bracha from Shemona Esrei, but this is not an issue anymore. Maybe. This is just a possibility. Now let's go back to Moshe Rabbeinu and his second day. Because this is really the crux of a situation that Hashem is setting up and is going to be with us for all time. From Moshe Rabbeinu leaving the palace in Mitzrayim thousands of years ago to today, 2020. Nothing changed. Let's go back to the second day. Moshe Rabbeinu comes across two Jews struggling with one another. He breaks up the fight. These two men, Dasan and Aviram, are going to keep appearing in the Torah time and time again. We're going to meet these characters. In Shmos alone, they come in 3 times we see them. Who are these people? What is their problem? What's going on over here? And Yisro tells Moshe, this is after Hashem commands him to return to Mitzrayim to rescue the Jews, Lech l'shalom, go in peace. And Hashem says to Moshe, go back to Mitzrayim, all those who want to kill you have since died. Says Rashi, who are the people Hashem's talking about? None other than Dasan and Aviram. So there's an obvious question. They didn't die. They're still alive. They're still alive and kicking. Why does it say they're no longer alive? So Rashi explains they became poor, and that's what it means that they're no longer alive. But leave it to Dasan and Aviram. After this temporary glitch, they found money again, and they became friends with Korach, and they did a lot. They were very wealthy. They were very influential. And the question of why Hashem keeps them alive for so long is the topic of another shir. But right now, let's go back to what happened. So Moshe returns to Mitzrayim, and he speaks to Paro. And he says to Paro, let my people go, the big catchphrase. And Paro says to, sorry, Moshe, not only am I not going to let them go, I'm going to make it worse. No more straw for you. Make your own bricks. Things are worse. Now, the guards of the Jewish people saw the state they were in. And they realized not only now, it used to be the palace at least gave them straw to make bricks, but now it's even worse. Now they have to make their own bricks, and the guards stood outside the palace, and they see Moshe and Aaron coming out of the palace, and they say to them, listen to what the Jewish guards say to Moshe and Aaron. Let God see, and let God judge. You have made us an abhorrent in the eyes of Paro and his servants. You have given them a sword in their hands to kill us. You understand what's going on? Moshe and Aaron just went to the palace to try to help the Jewish people. It backfires. And when they come out, two men are standing there and they're yelling at them. It's all your fault. You made it worse. Who are these two men? That's right. You know it. Dustin and Aviro. Hello, Dustin and Aviro. They are back. These guys are always there. They're like Waldo. You just got to look for them and you'll find them. But they're always there. We're going to see them again with the Shalach. We're going to see them with Korach. We're going to see them with Taman. We're going to see them a lot. Now, why does the Torah need to tell me the terrible things they say? Right? Now, think about it. Let's say that you open a Torah on Shabbos. We're reading the Parsha of Dustin and Avira. And is the letter Dalet missing from Dustin's name? That Torah is puzzle. That means there's an important reason to mention Dustin, and if his letter is missing, that Sefer Torah doesn't work. Why do we need them for? Why do they have to be in the Torah? What are they adding here? There's got to be a reason. The Torah is not wasting words. What's the point? What are they coming to tell us? How are they helping? At the Yam Suf, Klal Yisrael is in terrible danger. They're surrounded by the Mitzrayim, the ocean, the desert, and of course, who do we have? Dustin and Avira. And they come to complain, and they say to Moshe Rabbeinu, is this why you took us out of Mitzrayim? There aren't enough graves in Mitzrayim. You took us out to die in the desert? What a chutzpah. Imagine that you went through 10 makros, and you went through leaving Mitzrayim, and you went through all these amazing things, and you saw miracle after miracle after miracle. And now you're standing in front of the ocean. George, what does it take to trust Moshe Rabbeinu? What do you need? Well, miracles? Oh, you didn't have any miracles? What are you waiting for? The sea to split? Maybe they're waiting for the sea to split. Maybe after the sea will split, then they're going to say, okay, now I got it. No, it doesn't even help. Not even then. What do you want? You want to go up to Shemayim? Fine, you go up to Shemayim. No, not good enough. What are you waiting for? What is going to take to make Dustin of you be nice to Moshe Rabbeinu? Nothing. It's never going to work. Dustin and Avim start the ball rolling, and we suffer from them until today. How much proof do we need to show Yerushalayim is a Jewish city? How much proof do we need that Yerushalayim goes back to Jewish times? That archaeologists are constantly finding proof that Yerushalayim is a Jewish city. You're always finding coins, and we're finding mikvahs, and we're finding who knows what, building utensils and implements, kohanim and Beis HaMikdash. You know, and yet the world has such a problem agreeing that Yerushalayim is the Jewish city. You know what's a funny thing? They never found a Palestinian coin, not even once. I wonder why that is. Find a Palestinian coin. No Palestinian coin. You know why? It wasn't their city. Yerushalayim is a Jewish city. But can people accept that? No. Why not? It's a falsehood. Why can't you accept the truth? The falsehood started with Dustin and Avira. They got the ball rolling. This is what they're saying. Moshe and Aaron took us out of Mitzrayim because there aren't enough graves for us there. What are you talking about? What's stussim? What are you talking about? How come the people don't rise up and shout them down? Why don't the people get up and say, stop talking, Dustin and Avira? By the way, my great-grandparents were Levium. We did it. But I'm talking about the rest of you. What's going on over here? How come they didn't go around and shut up Dustin and Avira? They got away with saying terrible and outrageous things, and this started a situation in the world where people stand up and make statements with false statements, and they get away with it. It all began with us in an interview. Fascinating. It's a fascinating thing. I remember once, years ago, I was learning by Nella Elif. We were learning Kiruv training, and Rabbi Olesker came to give a speech, and he was talking about debating. And he said he once watched a debate between this Palestinian professor and somebody said to the guy, he said, I don't understand. Ehud Barak offered you 97% of what you want. Why didn't you take it? What are you complaining about? They offered you 97%. And the guy said, yeah, but 15% was garbage dumps. Now, that's a lie. But it takes, and by the way, he had no problem lying. He says, now he's talking about lying in debates. He said it's a tricky thing to lie in debates. Yeah, you got to be really good at debating if you're going to start lying. This guy had no problem lying in debates, and they do it all the time. People have no problem getting up and lying. No problem at all. Okay? But when did it start? Nothing of him got the ball rolling. They get up and they say, what? There's not enough graves in Mitzrayim? What are you talking about? We're going into Eretz Yisrael now. Why are you talking about this? Years ago, there was a group called the Cambridge Five. They were comprised of great intellectuals who they not only betrayed England, spying for communist Russia, but they betrayed the West, and they handed over tremendous sensitive material to the Russians. There are people like Kim Philby, Guy Burgess, Anthony Blunt. Books have been written about these people, and films have been made about the spies from Britain's most esteemed educational institution, Cambridge. Now you can say what you want about these people, and people like to romanticize spies and traitors. They romanticize them. At the end of the day, bottom line is that they're spies and traitors. However you want to call it, bottom line, they're spies, and a spy is a traitor. One book that was written about the Cambridge Five suggested that every single member of the group came from wealthy upper-class families, yet the families themselves were messed up and dysfunctional, the type of family message which produces traitors. Okay. On the surface, one could suggest Dasan and Aviram obviously came from a dysfunctional family background. Otherwise, why on earth would they want to kill each other? Why would they act this way? Right? Why should they stop them from killing each other? When do you find brothers who want to kill each other? Clearly, there's something wrong with these people. But it's hard to believe that Torah is telling me a message. Oh no, there's sick people in dysfunctional homes, and that's what the Torah is going to tell me. What is the message? Surely the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu had to meet these people on the second day when he comes out of the palace is coming to tell me something important for me to know for all time. You know, when we talk about, even like you go back in time for the Holocaust, right? Go to the Holocaust. So in the Holocaust, what do we have? We have kapos. A lot of times the kapos were Jews. The kapos were Jewish people. I just came across a very interesting story that a person went through something like this. Unbelievable. He said he was a Tzvi Hirsch Meislish, was a Rav before the war in Galicia. And he had a pair of tzitzis from his ancestor, the Yitav Lev of Sige. He had a talus that he had with him. He was the one from the grandchildren who had it. And he took it with him to Auschwitz. And in Auschwitz, he knew there's no way for him to wear it. He can't wear it and he can't hide it. So with a terrible feeling, he altered it from a talus gadol to a talus kata, and at least he felt to wear it under his pajamas. And he cut the talus gadol, and he wore it under. Now he knew there's a good chance that somebody's going to see that he's wearing a second layer, because the first layer, the striped pajamas, is so thin, but he had to do it. So he's walking around with it, and Baruch Hashem, he's feeling this is his protection. One day he goes to take a shower, and there's a couple sitting outside the door. And the couple's job is to look at every person who comes out of the shower to see if they're wearing one clothing or wearing another beggar. Did they take something that's not theirs? And as the guy's waiting outside and Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch passes him and looks and he sees that Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch is wearing another layer. And he pulls him to the side and he checks and he sees, yeah, he's wearing something underneath. And he starts beating him up and hitting him and slapping. How could you? What? It's not enough. What we give you is not enough. You have to have another pair, another article of clothing. And he's making him bleed. Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch, all he cares about is that the tzitzis should be left alone. And that's what he cares about. He doesn't care if the guy's beating him. He doesn't care if he's bleeding. He doesn't care about anything. And Baruch Hashem, when he got back to the back and he checked that tzitzis was still kosher, and he was very happy. He didn't care. The guy could have killed him. All he cared about was the fact that the tzitzis was still intact. Anyway, when it was time to leave, the Nazis sent him out of Auschwitz, and they were lining up to leave Auschwitz, and there was two rows, and at the end of the two rows, there was another couple sitting. I'm telling you, these couples, a lot of times they're Jewish people, and they're watching and to make sure nobody's smuggling anything out of the camp. And again, somebody sees that he has a beggar, he has a tzitzis under his clothing. And this time, he rips it out from under him, and he looks at it, and he says, what is this disgusting thing? And he's like, it's brown. You can imagine what it was like, years in Auschwitz. You can imagine what the pair of tzitzis looked like. and he ripped it up. And Absirus is like, no, don't do this. And he rips it up and he throws it into the fire. He burns it. And Absirus was heartbroken. You can imagine all these years he has the talis of the tzitzis of his grandfather, of the Ita of Lev, of Sigay, and now it's gone. His protection is gone. And they get on the train, and this cop also gets on the train, and he's sitting on the side. His job is to watch everybody. And as he's sitting on the train, he nods off to sleep, and his head rests on his son's shoulder. And as the hours pass, the son starts feeling a pain in his shoulder from where his father's head is lying. And he said to his father, I'm sorry, do you mind moving, maybe leaning your head on the other side, please? Which is a very funny thing for the son to say. Like, why would he say that to his father? It doesn't make sense. But that's what he asked. He asked his father to say that, to move his head. Now, mamish minutes, like very shortly after he moved his head, he was shocked that his son asked him, but he moved his head. A bomb comes flying out from on top of the train, goes right between father and son, and the shrapnel of the bomb ricochets off the wall, and it cuts the capo's hands. It cuts them off, like blood is gushing out of the capo's hands. And the capo died afterwards. That's what happened. The tzitzis were a protection for a Tzvi Hirsch, and the person who cut the tzitzis and destroyed them was punished and didn't live out the trip. And Tzvi Hirsch went on to Chicago, and he became the Rav in Chicago in the shul, Sheresh Yisrael. And I'm sure for the rest of his life, he told the story over many, many times about what the tzitzis that he took with him through Auschwitz protected him, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took revenge on the person that had the chutzpah to destroy the tzitzis. But that's what people went through in Auschwitz, and we're not judging kapos. That's not what we're here to do today. We're not judging them because it was Mamish Gehenna. But today is not a time when people have to be self-hating Jews. So why would people do this? Why would a person get up and make an announcement in a press conference in the world and say, I don't want the right of return as a Jew unless Palestinians have the right of return? Who are you? Why are you a traitor to your people? Comes along the Shem Yishmuel and he asks the question, why is it so important that Paro should know that Hashem is Hashem? The Torah keeps writing, this is happening, so you should know that I am Hashem. Why do I care if Paro knows that Hashem is Hashem? Why is that important? Let's quote Moshe Rabbeinu. He says when he takes leave of Paro for the last time, he says, we're going out with our sons and our daughters and our animals, and you will also give us animals to bring us karbanos to Hashem. Who needs Paro's animals to bring us karbanos? Why do we need Paro to know? Why do we need his involvement? Says the Shem Yishmuel, listen to this, everybody. This is something that has to do with us today. The blasphemy of Egypt impacted on the Jews. Jews were being influenced by Paro's rejection of God time and again. Jews were being influenced by Paro's rejection. When Paro rejects Hashem, it influences the Jewish people. When the people around us preach certain behaviors which are against the Torah, and they keep on saying it's okay, eventually people who know it's not okay start feeling maybe it is okay. Things, when you hear something enough times, even if you know it's wrong, it has an effect on you. And eventually maybe it's not so bad. No. The Torah says it's bad. The Jewish people know who Hashem is. Paro says, who's Hashem? It has an impact on the Jewish people. Paro should know who Hashem is. Says the Shem Yishmuel, how did Dasan and Aviram have the arrogance to speak like that to Moshe and Aaron? Where did it come from? All Egypt knew these were tzaddikim. They were doing miracle after miracle, turning snakes into sticks and sticks into snakes. Everyone but Dasan and Aviram. Shots like this, we explain it the following way. It's very important from Egypt to recognize Hashem. In fact, the intent of all the Makkos was to subdue Paro and all the mitzvah. It was not that Hashem needed Paro to say, I believe in Hashem. All the nations of the world are nothing before Hashem. That wasn't the reason, so what was the reason? When Paro admitted that there was a God, And when Yisro admitted there was a God, it was all for the sake of the Jewish people, so that the Jews would be able to achieve the ability to stand humbly before God, knowing their will means nothing in the presence of God's will. We need to hear people say God is great, so we should know God is great. And we know Hashem is great. But when we hear other people saying it, it reinforces it. And when we hear other people saying it's not, it hurts us. When we don't think we're not influenced by the things we see and the things we hear from the outside world, we are influenced. When we see the news, we're influenced by the things we see on the news. When we watch whatever it is, the clips that come our way to help us get through the boredom, we're influenced by the things we see. It's the Metzius. Can't argue with it. That's the reality. Says Shem Yishmuel, this is a form of conduct that accompanies us throughout all the Goluses. Because the arrogance of the nations who ask us all the time, where is your God? Where is your God? It takes its toll on us psychologically. It has an effect on us. When we keep on hearing when a Nazi stands in front of a Jew and says, where is your God? With a gun in his hand and a piece of pork on a plate, and he says, take a bite. Where is your God? Or when the Jews in concentration camps go to gas chambers and there's a sign in front with the Paraychis and it says, Pischul Yisharet Tzedek. It takes a toll psychologically on the Jewish people and it's hard. And they say, they keep on hearing this question. It takes a toll on us. Says the Shem Yishmuel, just like the Chutzpah, Das and Aviram became more intense near the end of the Egyptian exile, they learned this behavior from Paro's great Chutzpah. So too, as we ourselves come closer and closer to the final redemption, there will be a great manifestation of Jewish people speaking out against Hashem. You hear this, everyone? You're wondering why so many Jewish people are voting the other side? Why is that? Why is that? What don't you understand? These people hate Israel, they hate the Jews. Why are so many Jews voting for people who say we don't like Jews? How does that? Where are the brains? Shem Yishmuel writes in 1930, as we approach the end of days, there will be a great manifestation of Jewish people speaking out against Hashem because they will be influenced by a world that rejects the Jewish people and the God of Israel. Because before the light bursts through, the darkness intensifies. That's the reality. We got Jews like Bernie Sanders speaking out against Eretz Yisrael without any embarrassment. Where does it come from? It comes from him trying to make people who hate Jews like him. He's influenced by the people around him. It's a Metzius. And as we barrel closer and closer to the time of Mashiach, the manifestation is worse and worse. Like the Zohar writes, God took this out for the darkness of the morning. The most intense darkness of all the darkness is when it precedes dawn. That's the darkness that's most intense. So hopefully we're preceding dawn right now because, boy, it's dark outside. From the words of the Shem Yishmuel, it seems as the world is following Hashem's script. There's a script that was written and the world is following the script. How on earth could anybody possibly claim Har HaBayis wasn't always ours? What are you, stupid? What are you, don't know how to read? You don't know how to look at a history book? You don't know how to read the Bible? Why are we arguing over here? How could anyone possibly deny the history of King David, the Beis HaMikdash? Well, we're not Jews for thousands of years. Why are we arguing? What's the question? Unless we understand that in times of Mashiach, when chutzpah will reign, and then yes, people can speak with arrogance, and people will be capable of lying with such beauty and poise. And the saying is like the Arabs were there the whole time. There was no temple. Nothing belongs to you. It never did. And they say it with such language, with such flowery language, with such vocabulary, maybe an English accent, so they sound like they're really smart. And when the president of America wants to get the record straight and actually say the truth about Yerushalayim, everyone around the world attacks him because how could you be so honest and say the truth? It's an unbelievable thing. So yeah, we're living in a time when anyone can say whatever they want at Yerushalayim or anything really. But according to the Shem Yishmuel, all that means is that the Geula is getting closer and closer. That's all it means. As he writes in the 30s, prior to the Holocaust. The more crazy it seems, the more lies there are, the greater the darkness. All that means that we're getting closer to the final redemption. And he continues, is my opinion, The struggle of the nations against us is a manifestation of the war of Gog and Magog, and is taking on the form of the entire world against the Jewish people in a war of words and chutzpah. That's what the Shemesh Shmuel writes. And one of the main problems to come out of this is that the chutzpah and arrogance of the world impact on the weaker people among us. That's the problem. And then you have the BDS and the J Street and the Zurich Kartel and the Shofrim Shtika and B'Tselem, all these crazy organizations. I mean, it's all part of a process leading up to great things. Because the degree of betrayal that has existed amongst the Jewish people, it could be unparalleled. It could be unparalleled in history among any nation. No other people have suffered from so much self-loathing and betrayal as we have. So many people who hate the fact that they're Jewish, who are embarrassed by who they are. This arrogance that we find within our midst doesn't come from us. It's not inborn. It's coming from the outside world. It has an effect on us, like Paro had an effect on Dasan and Aviram. And he says the good God should forgive them. And may it be his will that B'Shavu Vanim L'Gevulam will all be humbled before the Torah, including Paro, whose animals we will bring as Karbanos. In the words of Albert Fried, Neilech, Ben Nereinu, Neilech, we're going to go out there, we want your Karbanos. Because Paro will also reach a stage where he recognizes Hashem and his greatness and our greatness. And when that happens, the self-loathing of the Jewish people will come to an end. But right now we're smack in the middle of it. Smack in the middle. You can't imagine how many Jewish people traveled to Eretz Yisrael to demonstrate with the Arabs. We don't know what's going on. We live in our little neighborhoods, in our Ramat Shemesh, in Yerushalayim. We don't understand. Go to the borders and see what's going on. You can't imagine what the soldiers have to deal with when all these Jewish kids come from universities and demonstrate with the Arabs and try to get the soldiers angry. We can't even imagine it. The depths of self-loathing and betrayal are astounding. In other nations, if people acted this way, they would be shot by their own countrymen. But we watch as Jewish people stick knives into their own skin and draw blood. It's an unbelievable thing. And one day this will all come to end. I can tell you, my own personal experience, I'll tell you in 1 second, my own personal experience with the Turei character, 1 second. Before that, the Gemara in Brachos tells us, Rav Gamliel asked the following question of the Sanhedrin in Yavne after the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. What question did they ask? Is there somebody here who feels capable of composing a 19th bracha for Shmoneh Esrei? I want someone to get up and write a bracha that's going to be against the slanderers and the traitors within our ranks. Is there somebody here who feels capable of writing such a bracha? The lot fell on a Tana by the name of Shmuel HaKatan. What do we know about Shmuel HaKatan? The most important thing we know about him is from a Mishnah in Avos, where he writes, Bin Vecha al tismach. When your enemy falls, do not be happy. And when he stumbles, don't let your heart be full of joy. From his words, it seems clear that Shmuel HaKatan worked on himself to ensure that there was no hatred, not even an iota of hatred to someone else in his neshama, to the point that he would not be happy even if his greatest enemy should fall. That's the person Rabbi Gamliel asked to write this bracha. He's the one who can write such a bracha. May Hashem uproot, break, destroy, humble those who do wrong with evil intent speedily in our days. He's only writing this bracha not because he hates these people. It's only out of a sense of pain, a sense of necessity. There's no hatred here. It's much because we need to daven to Hashem to take care, to help us from all these traitors in our midst. Only such a person like Shmuel HaKatan, who eradicated all personal hate from his life, can write such a bracha. So I myself, a number of years ago, was in England to give a speech, and a few hours before I was supposed to go speak, the organizer calls me up and says, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? So she says that the Turei character found out you're giving a speech, and they're going to be picketing and demonstrating outside the hall. And I'm like, what do I have to do with the Turei character? What does the Turei character have a problem with me? What's the problem? Did I write something and I have an amazing story for you they didn't like? What is going on over here? So it turns out that the reason why they had a problem with me was because I did an event at the Knesset a number of years before. And the fact that I was willing to do an event in the Knesset, they were upset about me to the point where they felt an urgent need to demonstrate against me in public in the middle of a street in Stafford Hill. You understand? Don't try to understand the Torah character. I'm just telling you, this is the people we're dealing with over here. Unbelievable. People who are suffering from a severe lack of what it means to be a Jew. Rav Kook writes, listen to this everybody, because it's a shocking thing. Rav Kook writes that it's possible for a Jew who has a holy neshama to destroy the holiness of his neshama. How? How could he do that? How could a Jew destroy his neshama? What could he do to destroy his neshama? Is that possible? Says Rav Kook, yes. If what the Jewish person says or does causes harm to the Jewish people to have to solve, and he or she has lost the sanctity of the neshama. You hear this, everyone? When a Neturei character person stands up with Arabs, with a Palestinian flag, and denies the Holocaust, basically what they're saying is that they're losing the sanctity of the neshama. There's the point of no return, the point where the neshama becomes the essence of evil. And from that point on, the neshama starts having a din over Yisrael. They're hurting their brothers. When the neshama hurts their brothers, the neshama itself loses the sanctity of what it means to be a neshama. This is what Kook writes. One would think you can't. You can't really hurt a neshama. No, you could. A person can hurt a neshama. If you hurt your brothers, you demonstrate against your brothers, your self-hating Jew who stands with the enemies, your neshama gets tarnished and corroded and corrupted until it stops working for you. The fact that Dustin and Rabbi introduced the Moshe from the moment he leaves the palace shows us that these kind of problems will exist among Klal Yisrael for the rest of time. That's the bottom line, everybody. That's why I talk about this before Tisha B'Av, because this is not just a problem that happened a few thousand years ago. And we see this, the Torah makes the point, we should understand that it's always going to be with us. As long as Mashiach doesn't come, you're going to have this problem of self-hating Jewish people. We have to understand that. And the Maharal, I'm going to end off with this Maharal, everyone. Come along the Maharal. The Maharal, the man who brings tremendously creative ideas within the Torah. And he says, when a people is coming to address this question of why is there a Dustin and a Avira? Why? Why do we have a Dustin and a Avira? Now we can answer many questions. We can answer many ways. It goes along with the question of why HaKadosh Baruch Hu make the sea churn and roil the entire night before Kriyas Yam Tov. Why do you do that? Didn't you know that that's going to cause people, scientists, to say, well, it wasn't really a miracle. The fact that the ocean was turning the whole night means that scientifically that the whole the moon and everything was aligned for the Kriyas Yam Tov. Didn't you know that was going to happen? He did. So why did he make it churn the whole night? The answer is because he wanted people to be able to say that it wasn't a miracle. Why did Hashem want that? Because otherwise you don't have a chira. Hashem wants you to have a chira. There's always going to be a Dustin and a Avira. There's always going to be something churning of the ocean. There's always going to be a smart. There's going to be always something that gives you the Yitzhara. Because otherwise, it's a no-brainer. Of course you deserve Hashem. If there's no Yitzhara. Why wouldn't you? It makes complete sense. The moment you have it, there's got to be a challenge. There's got to be something to say no. I'll tell you something interesting. Crazy. I was talking to Roseman last night. I'm working on a book with him. There's a Shem. It's an amazing book. And Rosa told me a great story. He says he meets a wealthy man in Florida, in Miami, and the guy said, "Come to my house tonight, and I'll come to my house. I'll give you something." So of course we come that night. So the guy comes that night to the guy's mansion in Miami on the beach, on the water. He rings the bell. There's no answer. He rings the bell again. There's no answer. He rings the bell again. Finally, they buzz him in. He's buzzed into this palatial state. And he walks in, nobody comes to greet him. So he just walks into the house. He walks into the living room. And the man is sitting with his back to the door on his big couch and he's looking at a television screen. So both of them looks at the television screen and he sees this, what's going on? He never saw it in his life. He sees two guys standing there in the middle of a ring and they are punching each other. Boom, boom, boom. There's a boxing match. The guy's watching a boxing match. He's so engrossed in the boxing match, he probably bet on it or whatever. And he's so engrossed that he doesn't even notice that Grossman came into the house. And he's yelling, get him, get him, get him, get him, yo, get him. He's yelling, get him. And finally, they go to commercial. And he turns around and he sees Grossman. He says, oh, I'm very sorry. I didn't notice you were here. Please forgive me for not greeting you. And Rose says, no, it's fine, he said. I'm so happy that you gave me the opportunity to see this thing. He said, what do you mean? He says, I never saw boxing before, but I appreciate that you gave me this. He says, why? He says, because you told me about Avodas Hashem. The man says, what are you talking about? How did I teach you about Avodas Hashem from boxing? He says, I'll tell you. Many times people ask me the question, they say, why did Hashem make it so hard for us to be from? If he would just not give us the Yetzer Hara, then we would keep all the mitzvahs. Just don't give us the Yetzer Hara. Right? So he says, obviously, if we don't have the Yetzer Hara, then it's not going to be challenging for us. It's a no-brainer, he said. And it's like the Yetzer Hashem says, no, I don't want it to just be like a no-brainer for you. I want to give you a Yetzer Tov, I want to give you a Yetzer Hara, and then I want both of them to fight each other. And I want to say the Yetzer Tov, get him, get the Yetzer Hara, get him, come on, get him. And so the man was blown away. I don't know how much money you hear of Grossman. I assume it was quite a donation. But anyways, the point is, what the Maharal says. The Maharal says, why do we have Dustin and Avira? Why do we have them? He says, when you have two people like Moshe and Aaron, then you have to have two people like Dustin and Avira. You got to balance it out. Otherwise, you have no choice. We have a choice. We have a choice as part of our lives every single day. And it's our lives even now. This is why we have Dustin and Aviram, we have those things and what they represent in our world. So we have our choice. But at the end of the day, it's not meant to be an easy road. Hashem wants it to be a challenge. Hashem wants us to hear things on the news or wherever we hear things that make it hard for us, and then we're supposed to overcome those things, rise up and say, I'm not going to let that hurt my emunah. And the Shem Shmuel said it's coming closer and closer. And what we need to remember when those challenges come and the Yetzer Hara is there, we need to remember that Kodesh Baruch is sitting up in Shemayim on the screen, the big screen up in Shemayim, and he's looking at the fight, and he's saying, get him! Get him! Take the time! Get him! Like a boxing match. That is Hashem. We're going to run up the challenges. We're going to beat the Yetzer Hara. And next time we hear that a Jewish person got up and said something that we don't understand how on earth a Jew could do this, we'll remember the Shem Shmuel, we'll remember Dustin and Aviram, and we'll understand that all it means is that we're like 20 steps closer to the time when no Jew will do this ever again. It should be this year for Ezra Hashem.
Thank you so
Thank you all for
much.
joining me. Everybody,
Rabbi Seltzer, first of all, I want to apologize to you. We had a power cut and there was absolutely nothing I could do. I had to come to a neighbor's house to log on, so I really, really apologize to you and all the ladies. A power cut is not in my control. So first of all, thank you so very much, and accept my apologies, everybody. Like I said, it wasn't in my control. Would you just stay for 2 minutes in case anybody has any questions? And if you do, unmute yourself. Now's your chance. Okay. Ladies, next week we have Rabbi Zev left, 2 o'clock Israel time. Thank you again, Rabbi Seltzer, and thank you, everybody.
make sure to present the story. It's not a let's say